Hello and welcome to the Voices of Victory podcast show. Today's episode is Decision Making Windows, the Decision Window Killer. We're going to go over it right now because it's going to be a tough podcast episode to have because a lot of people have difficulty with it. And every choice that we have to make has a window. And if you miss it, you miss your opportunities, you miss your chance. And decision-making windows are real. You can think of a window as the time that it's open and the time that it's actually closed. And we want to train ourselves to have shorter decision-making windows. We want to be able to be 24 hours to on the spot, Johnny on the spot or Jane on the spot. So guess what? There's going to be moments where you have enough info to act without actually overthinking. And you can ask yourself that question, do I have enough information to act right now? And you're either going to self-doubt yourself and make an excuse, or you're actually going to take action. Because if you wait too long, you're going to chase perfection. That opportunity window will indeed close. So you need a method. You need a method to move. We have to have bias for execution. We have to pick a strategy, pick a moment, we have to act, and we have to understand that our risks are going to have to be taken. You're going to have risks. For every risk, there's a reward, and we have to have calculative methods of calculating what's going on and understanding how we can mitigate risk as well. That's what it's all about. So if we take a good hard look into some ways to stay within that decision-making window, you want to train yourself from 24 hours to on the spot, like I said. And we want to look at the very first window. This is a great way to do it. I want you to take a look at the decision that you have to make right now. Identify the 20% of the info that matters most in that situation, the things that matter the most, and decide with that. Because you may not have all the information, but if you have at least 20%, you can actually move as far as that information will allow until it's time to get more. In other words, some things can move forward as you go, as you progress. It's not going to be perfect execution every single time. So you identify the 20, you figure out what matters most, you make your move, you move forward, and then you could wait for the next batch of information to come. And you could decide with that in mind. Another way to do it is take a look at the window that you're dealing with and set a strict time on yourself. You have to have a decision by, and then when the bell rings, you're good. So think of a decision by, like we have to have a decision by this time. That's when the bell goes off, and when the bell actually rings, that's when you need to have your decision made. And it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be there. And that's the problem. People want to be perfect. They don't realize, oh, but I want it to be perfect. No, I'm sorry. Softness doesn't get a vote from me on that one today. Not at all. Being that I'm an author, wrote a book about perfectionism, The Beautiful Flaw. You can catch it on Amazon. Understand, please understand, when the decision bell goes off, you are done. Set a timer, move with the information you have, and set that bell. When a bell goes off, you're done. Another thing you could do is reverse the question a little bit. Take a look at what you have to decide upon and ask yourself, what's the cost of not deciding here? Another way to look at it is, imagine if you wait too long and you actually failed. If you wait too long and you fail the opportunity because you waited too long, what would you have done differently? It's okay to kind of think it out a little bit, but you have to use that to decide right now. So what would you have done differently? Like if you were going to think through, like imagine if you failed, imagine if you hit the end of the line, you waited too long and you failed, what would you have done differently? And use that to help you decide in the moment. That's what it's about. Because windows don't wait, and you shouldn't either. So I think too many people will chase perfect. They can't pick a method and act within that window, and that's what we want to understand. Another thing you can do is take a look at yourself almost like a shadow version of you or like an alternate reality. You can pretend for a moment that you're going to be the shadow version of yourself where you're trying to do everything right. You might be harsher on yourself. Imagine that tougher, harder part of who you are is actually watching. And ask, like, what would that other side of me actually do? You know, the side that executes, what would that shadow side do? It just cuts through the excuses and the hesitation right away. Okay? That's what we want to look at. Flip the script. Just reverse the choice a little bit. Imagine choosing the opposite of what you want. Then observe your gut reaction with that. Because that strong pull usually signifies a real decision making. Another thing you can do, which is pretty cool to do, and this comes from business. A lot of these decision-making muscle techniques, they come from business. And you could do a decision matrix. I've done it with people in lean change strategies. So what we do is we get a group of people together, we list all the options together, we list all the criteria together, and we score them. We score each option and each piece of criteria by importance. You know, what's the importance of this? And what's the highest total wins, and where do those wins actually sit? And then just check in with yourself and be brutal about it. Be brutal when you assign these scores. Be real, be honest with yourself, and score them wisely. Another thing you can do is SWOT analysis, which comes from business as well. You can take a look and say, what are the strengths of this situation? What are the weaknesses of this situation? What are the opportunities? And what are the actual threats? Not perceived threats. Don't get it fucking twisted. We're not buying into our own anxiety. What are the actual threats? Be real. Be concise. Don't future project threats. Look at what is actually a threat. There's a difference between projecting into the future and looking at what is. This focuses on getting clear instead of this endless, over-the-top speculation all day long. So you got to be able to run that SWOT analysis, all right? And then your gut reaction will become obvious. That's the whole point, is that your gut will say, okay, everything seems to point this way, and you start to realize. Understand the cost of delay, because there are costs to delays. And another thing you can do is, I use it in lean change strategies all the time. Run a small experiment before fully committing. All right? Agree to run an experiment, a small one. All right? And this will touch on the emotional aspect of it. Small test, real world, safe to fail, like lean change strategies. Get some feedback and then improve the options and go forward. So rapid prototyping is where it goes into play. And don't be afraid to do like a mind map or a map of choices. Choices, outcomes, and probabilities. And this will help you to move forward instead of overthinking. So you can integrate like a pre-mortem thought process, like what if this all went wrong? And you can visualize the worst case scenarios, but the whole point is to cut those weak branches and start looking at the direction that you can go. There isn't going to be a perfect direction because it doesn't always come out the same for two people. But if you cut some of those worst case scenarios, you could have a scenario where it's not as bad as it could have been. And you need to accept some of those aspects with grace. Have a great day. See you in the next episode. Don't forget to share this with people who could actually benefit from it.